What is up, everybody? We are live. This is Real Estate Uncensored. We are back with Chris Naugle. We're talking about why the rich are getting richer, but you can too. So we've got a bunch of stuff to share with you today. And we're back. So we got a lot of stuff to get into. We're recording this as of January of 2021, right? So we haven't talked to Chris on the show, I think, since October, and we talked about how the rich are getting richer. But man, 2021, with all the inflation potential, money printing, like all kinds of stuff that's going on, who knows? But we do know one thing, which is that the rich are going to get richer, right? So we're going to talk about what that means for the rest of us, what we can do about it, how we can become our own banker, and all that stuff. We've got Gene Volpe here as well, so let me bring him in first. Unfortunately, Greg is not able to join us, and so we are live here on Greg's profile. You can still get the show here as always, but Greg unfortunately is not able to make it. So my esteemed co-host for the day is Gene Volpe, the Evil Ball Ninja. What's up, man?
What's up, Matt Johnson? I want to ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
You keep using the word unfortunately. Greg's not here. Is it unfortunate?
No, I like to make him feel better. I don't want to. He's not feeling well, so it's not like I want to kick him while he's down on his own Facebook page.
Ready? Here it is. Wah! My belly hurts. Wah! No, I'm teasing. Of course,
we miss Greg. Come on.
Of course, all the time.
Yes. All right. So we've got a bunch of stuff to get into. Chris Naugle, officially welcome back. What's up, man?
Thanks for having me back. I'm excited.
We got such amazing feedback on your last show. We wanted to do a follow-up. I mean, we'll have you back anytime to talk about anything because you've got your hands in a lot of different things. You can talk about money. You can talk about real estate. You can talk about stocks. You can talk about insurance. You can talk about all kinds of stuff. But we want to talk about just what's going on, how the rich are getting richer, how that affects the rest of us, how we can actually become part of that group of people that is going to actually benefit from all the chaos. So we'll get into that in a second. But first of all, just tell folks if they haven't seen you before, if they haven't heard you on the show, who are you? What do you do?
So I've gotten the nickname or the title of America's #1 money mentor. I'm just a ex-pro snowboarder, ex-snowboard shop owner that went financial advisor, spent a lot of time on Wall Street, and today I took the rosy glasses off back in 18, retired from the Wall Street world, and started teaching people the truth about how money really works, not the things that you've been taught. So that's kind of what I do.
Love it. And you are also the host of Real Estate Money School, which my agency produces. So everyone should go check out that show. That is amazing. He's got some really great guests on there. And then you also do solo episodes where you break down kind of current events and what's happening. And so that's Real Estate Money School. You can grab that on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, all the usual places. But let's get into the question, because, Gene, you came with a question. You came loaded for bear. Now, you claim to have 55 questions. I'll be lucky if I let you get to about 13 of them. But I do want you to start off with the one that you had in mind about 401ks and buying real estate. So set the scene for me a little bit. How did this question even come up?
So I will set the scene. I have to go back real quick because it just dawned on me something. I thought I saw Chris recently on the news channel or something, and I realized what it was. Was that you in the lion suit that was at the top of the Senate? Well, just for the people.
How did you know? Is it because I'm short? Like, was it the shortest person in there, and you just thought that was me?
No, I just thought it was the beard.
It's the guns. It's the arms, man. It's the it's the biceps. It's the guns.
So I'm kidding, of course. So here's where it came up. So my wife and I periodically will sit on the couch late at night and talk about what we're doing. I have a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old, and with all the stuff that's gone on in the last 9-10 months, we're looking at our finances, we're looking at the future, all these things, right? And one of the things that I keep thinking about, there's a couple elements to this. So she's got a kitty where she's got her 401k that's and her IRAs that she's been putting in like a good American for forever. And we have some, just little sporadic pieces of money all over the place, right? One place I can't really say whether I have money in it or not because the government's listening. But we'll talk about that element down the line. But here's what I said to her, and I feel like I know what you're going to say to me, and I think you're going to talk to me like I'm your 14-year-old son, and I'm okay with that. I just want to really feel you out on this. So if you've watched this show, then you probably know that my perception of what's happening or my prediction of what's going to happen is the real estate market's going to be in trouble in a little bit, commercial, residential, all that stuff, right? I also do believe that at some point the market is going to take a correction. So here's my thought. And I'm going to make up numbers. Let's say we have $200,000 in an IRA, okay? if I sell that while the market's at the top, and again, a lot of this is a gut call,
Mm-hmm.
and sell that off and then put it into cash reserves, and then wait for the real estate market to come down, and at some point I would think that the market would crash. Crash is a terrible word, but the market will come back a little bit. Now I have cash out with a profit. I take some of that cash and from a legal perspective, from an IRS perspective, direct it into some real estate somewhere, whether it's a rental piece, a commercial building, a vacation home that we can rent out and then use ourselves, like whatever the laws are around that. Well, that's another story. Buy that as real estate is depressed, right? And then also buy back in the stock market. So it's like a two play, right? So I guess where we're starting with this is, I think in my head, buy high and right, or sell high and then buy low again. I happen to be 45, so if I make a small mistake, we can correct it over the next 20, 30 years, right? It's probably not for everybody, and I know this isn't going to be financial advice. I threw a lot of stuff at you there right now. Your initial thoughts, and don't start with "you're an idiot."
Right? You didn't
Well, that's unspoken. It's unspoken.
Yeah. I mean, you just laid out your scenario, and you didn't, there's nothing complicated about that. It's very simple, and I believe Matt, pull up that. What book are you holding there, and who is it by?
So it's the book about Warren Buffett and Munger. It's called "All I Want to Know Is Where I'm Going to Die, So I'll Never Go There."
There you go. So Warren Buffett says some interesting things. He says, the secret to making money, and he talks about the stock market, but this is applicable in real estate and just about anything, is he says, buy low, sell high, and don't lose money. Now, you mentioned two of the three. You said, all right, I got to sell high and I got to buy low. Okay, you used them in that. And that's the right order right now because we are in a high market. So that would be what you're doing, is selling high and buying low. But if you did just those two things, right, buy low, sell high, or sell high and buy low, you can't lose money, period. You can't. It's impossible. But that isn't what people do. And you're seeing it happen right now. It's scary, actually. We are all inherent gamblers. We have been taught from a young age to be gamblers. You're like, I've never been to Las Vegas. Oh, yeah? You're putting money in the 401k right now? You're a gambler, because that's what everybody wants. They're chasing some magical, fictitious gain. And they think for some reason that this gain, this market as you have it right now, the stock market, the S&P 500, Dow Jones, all of them are just going to keep on keeping on. But people don't understand market patterns. They don't understand that this can't continue, nor will it continue. And they don't understand that the smartest thing they could do if they can't accept the risk is exactly what you said: sell. And everybody has an excuse. Oh, I can't sell. I'd have to pay taxes. Great. So don't sell. Wait for your account to drop 50%. Then you don't have to pay taxes. You win. It's the stupid, most idiotic thing I've ever heard. But literally, I hate to say that, the average person that has a financial advisor, and if there's any financial advisors listening, I promise I'm not trying to pick on you. I'm just talking the truth. You are telling your clients to keep investing in the market. And if you understand your clients' risk tolerances and needs, okay, you wouldn't be telling them that almost if they're in any risk tolerance outside of being like 20 or 30 years old and, hey, I don't care about risk. I just want to ride this thing out. Because if the market does collapse, and it will, you just lost all of your gains that you were chasing. So like you said, wouldn't it be smart just to take the money in your 401k or in your IRA and sell the positions and move it into the cash reserves or the money market or the U.S. Treasuries account? I would say that would be a brilliant idea, because then you just did exactly what we talked about. You sold high. The second thing, and he's probably looking it up in that book, what Warren says. He says, when others are greedy, be fearful. And then he says, when others are fearful, be greedy. Just, if you look around out there, what do you see right now? Do you see greed or do you see fear?
Ooh.
Oh, yeah, that's
a good question.
I
would say the smart people are being greedy. Most people are probably being fearful.
Okay. So I would say it's about a 50-50 split. Some people are scared of what possibly is going to come or the political stuff. So other people are being greedy, saying, oh, my God, it's going up. Look at the market. Look at Bitcoin. Look at everything else. It's all going up. Buy, buy, buy. You are doing exactly what they want you to do. And congratulations. You are conforming to what they've been teaching you the whole time. And conformity, where does that land you? Well, look at the statistics, folks. Social Security Administration says that out of 100 people, by the time they reach retirement age, only 5 of them will be financially secure. So if I took, if you guys have, someone that's 25 or 20, if I went around and found 120-year-olds and asked them if they were going to be millionaires by 65, they'd all say yes. But for some reason, they aren't. Only 5 of them are. And there's one reason. They conform. They don't create. If you folks want to be successful and, if you want to be successful, you're already doing it. You know exactly what to do. You sell right now. And you sit back and you stop worrying about chasing that last 5 or 10% return, and you sit in cash and you wait. And when this whole thing blows up, mark my word, with everything I know and risking my entire reputation on the line, which is a big reputation, the market will collapse. The stock market I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. The problem is when? Because I've been saying this for a while. When? Well, that's the magic. I can't tell you when. Nor can Ray Dalio, nor can Warren Buffett. Nobody can predict the top or the bottom. So you just have to wait. And, patience is a virtue. So why is it so difficult? Well, everybody's a gambler. I just said that. So should you do that? Sell high and get out? I absolutely think that would be a genius idea. But then you're sitting in cash. And then people make the excuse that, cash is a terrible place. Inflation is 3.2 and climbing. And then I'm going to lose money to that. Very true. So you don't want to be in cash for long. You need to move that money. You need to find somewhere to put it. Well, where are you going to put it? Well, if the whole stock market collapses, whenever it does, that means that about 6 months later, statistically and historically, the real estate market will take a dip. And I think the real estate market will take a dip prior to this, but that's my opinion. And when the real estate market takes a dip, isn't that a great place to park your money? Absolutely. I would love to buy real estate like I was able to back in 08, but you're not going to get that opportunity because you know who is? Hedge funds. Hedge funds are sitting in cash because they understand that they are in cash. They're in liquid, conservative positions waiting for all of you to pile all your money into the stock market so that when it collapses, they're sitting there like vultures and they're going to take it all. Because everybody needs to understand that when one loses, one makes. When one sells, one buys. It happened in 1926, 1927, 1928, and 1929, the Great Depression. That's where Marine Midland Bank came from. That's where a whole bunch of these Lehman Brothers and all these companies, they were holding companies. What were they there to do? Buy up what you were selling pennies on the dollar. And if you don't think that's going to happen, it will. It's just what side of the coin you're going to be on. Are you going to be sitting there waiting for the opportunity, or are you going to be the risk taker who's just been conforming and following the herd right off the cliff? I don't mean to bring it that way, but the truth hurts.
That's funny because that's the quote that I found. So, Chris, you were asking me like what quote? So Charlie Munger said, most people in business can't stand their competitors running off in one direction, no matter how foolish, and leaving them standing there alone, which is why people stay in the market. Great
You're absolutely correct. And the funny thing is like that book and all those other Charlie books, I've read them all. Mm-hmm. A lot of my knowledge isn't just because I spent 16 years in Wall Street. It's because I read about the past, and the past will repeat itself. In the one book, Creature from Jekyll Island predicts the future, and everything he predicted is happening right now. And if you all read the very end, the very last chapter of that book, I promise you, you will no longer stay in the stock market.
Okay, so Gene, first of all, did you get the answer that you wanted? And then I want to dig in maybe a little bit more to the scenarios off of that. You got it?
Yo, your boy's getting a vacation home.
There you go.
Yeah, that's what's up. No, I listen. I think, I think like everybody else. Like I like how you laid it out there, Chris. You're like, that's my opinion. That's my opinion. But I also like the fact that you're backing it up with historical stats, and you're right. History just does repeat itself over and over again. This whole COVID coronavirus is a replay from the influenza, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So like I think these things definitely play with each other. And sometimes when I hear myself say it, like we were sitting on the couch last night, and I could see my wife looking at me with a tilted head, and I was saying to myself, is she thinking like this idiot, because I honestly do think. And maybe I'm wrong. And if you're a financial advisor, I'd love for you to reach out to me. But I do think a lot of financial advisors would say to me, yeah, don't do that. Right? So I expected you to go, yeah, don't do that. And when you said, great idea, I'm like, oh, look at me.
You had me pegged in my prior world. You thought of me as a financial advisor. I am not. I don't hold any licenses anymore. I let them all expire, and I retired in 2018. And when I did that, I realized what I did for 16 years, and I hate to say this, but I was taught to not always do what's in the best interest of my clients. I was sometimes taught to sell, do what was in the interest of the firm I worked for or my own income, which was not in the best interest of my clients. And that's where I get a bad reputation with financial advisors. I'm not very well liked by them. And I understand why, and I'm not trying to take money out of their pocket, but for crying out loud, just agree that I am right, because I am. And if you don't think that I'm right, just give it a little time and it'll prove it. And that's the thing. I remember back in 2008, I just got to tell this story. In '08, I was an advisor. I was listening to all my consultants, all the brokerages, everybody, all my mutual fund, guys were saying, oh yeah, this. And I'm like, great, feel good. And then when it collapsed, I remember being up at 4 a.m., 3 a.m., cold sweats. I couldn't do anything to save my clients, just couldn't do it. And then I remember hearing stories of these advisors that had all their clients out of the market. They were all out of the market. Now they're buying back in, and I'm just like, how did they know? And I held them so high up on a pedestal. They were my heroes. Folks, I just want to be your hero. That's all. I just want to be the hero for once.
Well, I think you will be, Chris, because it's gonna.
I wore a shirt to commemorate all of this, because you've all seen Jaws, and the picture, the famous Jaws one with the shark underwater and the girl swimming, right? And Jaws obviously eats the girl. Well, I wore a shirt with a kitty cat staring up at a little duck in the water, and the kitty cat's going to eat the duck. Well, the kind of whole thing behind this, well, one is Greg, but number two is don't be the duck.
I like it. While we're on the subject of clothing, what is your hat?
BYOB. What do you think that means?
Well, I know what it means, but I don't think you say what I think it means.
Means, most people think bring your own beer, which
That's
is
exactly
originally
right.
what we know. But my BYOB says become your own bank.
Oh, I like that. Yes.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, Chris, because I wanted to follow up on Gene's question. So you're taking, let's say you have a source of capital, right? So you have the source of capital. Maybe it's a 401k, maybe it's an IRA, maybe it's profits from the business that haven't been distributed. So maybe you don't want to take them as cash and take the income tax hit on that, right? So you've got a chunk of change, however you come by it, and you can take it out of something like the stock market, like an IRA, and you can sock it away. Now the question is, at that point, would you try to get it as quickly as you could into real estate, or knowing what you know, would you go throw it into a whole life policy? That way it can sit for as long as it needs to until the real estate space gets to the point where you can buy low. Is that what you would go do with it?
It's sort of a loaded question, because the number one thing I do is change one thing and change where the money goes first. So if you take money out of an IRA, you get a profit from the sale of a property, wherever your money comes from. Most people just put it in a bank account, and then they wait, and then they put it into the real estate. But your bank is the only one making money in that transaction. See, I change where the money goes first, and I put it into a very specially designed and engineered whole life. Because when you say whole life, everybody goes to the gurus, the Dave Ramsey's, the Susie Ort's.
Right.
It's a terrible place to put money. And I would agree with regular whole life. It's not a very good place to park money, but we're not talking about anything that resembles a regular whole life. So I put it in these specially designed privatized banking policies, and then all I do is I put it there and I immediately take the money back out. Not all of it, because you can only take 60 to 90% immediately in the first 30 days. And then I take that money and I just move that money over to the real estate that I want to buy. Now what I've done that most people don't know how to do is I'm now making money twice. I'm making money on the banking policy, because the insurance company still pays me full interest at 4% plus dividends on every penny I put in that plan, even though I took the money out to go buy real estate, which is now making me money. People, the whole idea behind why we do that is because that's what the wealthy do. That's what they've done for hundreds of years. Go back to the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers. Why do banks buy more whole life than anyone else? Is it because they're stupid, or do they just know something we don't know? Well, if you guys understand banks, you know they know something we don't know. And if you look at their balance sheets, they own more whole life than they do in all the land and buildings combined. Folks, I'm not that smart. All I do is mimic what the wealthy do, mimic what the banks do. And because of that, I become incredibly successful and somewhat wealthy, I guess, by some standards. And I didn't do anything great. I just found out something that's been used for hundreds of years by the wealthiest individuals in this country or world, if you will. And I just said, if they're working and that's working for them and they're doing that, I'm just going to do it. So the answer to your question, and that was long-winded, is yes, I would move it into that specially designed whole life, then take it out and then buy the real estate and make money twice for the rest of my life.
Love it. Okay. So 'cause I had the feeling that was what you were going to say, because that's where, like, knowing you and knowing that approach, that's where I would say to go too. Yeah, Dave Ramsey is an interesting cat. Either there's some ego issues there or something, because he's either intentionally lying about like this particular strategy, because I've heard him blast it at, in no uncertain terms. And then I've heard people like Bob Murphy, Austrian economist, and somebody I really, really respect a lot, come back and say he's absolutely wrong categorically. And just so either he's not doing his homework and he's like he's only looking at something on the surface and going, that doesn't work, without actually checking into it, or he's flat out lying. Either way, I've lost a lot of respect for Dave Ramsey, and everybody I know, Chris, in your space that does anything close to what you do says the exact same thing. Like, he is giving out terrible advice to the average person because he either doesn't educate himself or knows what's up and is intentionally saying that's a bad strategy for people for some reason. I don't know which, if we care, which one it is.
I'm just going to hit this one really quick because I could go down a rabbit hole, but first off, I want to start off with saying I have a tremendous amount of respect for Dave Ramsey, for the millions of Americans that he has helped get out of debt with his strategy. So first off, Dave Ramsey is I'm a fan of him. Mm-hmm. However, Dave Ramsey's ego has gotten so big that it's uncontrollable. And also, I have to believe that there's something else behind this in terms of how he makes money, because if you just follow the dollar, sometimes you get the truth. And why he's so dead set on his buy term invest the difference, walking people into what I think is a very bad scenario for them, from both ways, from a legacy standpoint and also a wealth building standpoint. But I'm not going to go there. And you're talking about the last Dave Ramsey thing he did, where he bashed IBC with that client that called in. First off, if you know anything about infinite banking concept and what we do with privatized banking, you will know Dave Ramsey is absolutely 100% clueless, because he's talking about two insurance companies, Prudential and Northwestern Mutual. Neither one of those companies work for privatized banking. Then he goes on to say Prudential is a mutually owned company, which they are not. Just look up, Google Prudential. You'll find their ticker symbol. That doesn't mean mutually owned. And he literally takes that whole conversation and in the most egotistical way I could ever imagine, and literally destroys his credibility in one swoop for anybody that knows. But the problem is his followers don't know what they don't know. They fall under the Will Rogers quote. The biggest problem in America is not what people don't know, it's what they think they know that just ain't so. And unfortunately, most of his followers fall right in that little statement that I just made.
Yeah, which is unfortunate. But like I said, you made a good point, which is that he is commendable for helping people get out of debt. That's absolutely true. So for helping people get to a launch pad where they could start to use some of the IBC strategies that you talk about, great, good for him. But yeah, people definitely need to move on. Like, once they've hit that, if you're out of debt, time to stop listening to Dave Ramsey and move on to something else, because now it's time to get into the real stuff. So that helps to kind of know where he's coming from, which it sounds like it's ego-based lack of education, or ego-based ignorance, intentional ignorance. Okay. So, Gene, let's turn back to you, because you said you have a million questions. We could talk about 2021 and money mindset and things like that. But Gene, if you've got something more specific, that you like, a specific scenario, let's get another one.
Yeah, and I have one more preloaded question. I mean, that I felt like that one that I gave him was a couple questions in one. We talked, real estate. We talked vacation. There's a couple things. The other thing, and I actually don't know, Chris, how much expertise you have in this area, so I'll set it up like that, or how much knowledge or how much care you have in this. But the Bitcoin right now has gone in the last 2 weeks from 26,000 per coin to what's right today was over 41,000. So I know that there's a lot of buzz. In a lot of these circles, people are starting to talk about it with the way that the January 20th, regardless of which side you're on, things are going to change. The outside world is looking at the dollar differently. There's so many things, right? So just, I guess, thoughts on, the next year in Bitcoin versus the next 10 years. I mean, I don't know. Do you have any expertise in that area?
Well, no, I'm not an expert in Bitcoin,
okay,
but obviously it's in the money realm, so I do follow it. I don't invest in it. I want to be very clear about that. I don't suggest or ever even make any suggestions about Bitcoin, but I have watched it very closely, and I commend any one of you that have bought Bitcoin in the last couple years, because you're crushing it right now. But just like we said earlier, at a certain point, you have to decide, where do you get off the train? Because the train doesn't run forever. There's not a train track on Earth that goes forever. You have to decide an exit point. So I don't know, if I owned Bitcoin right now, I'd exit, but a lot of people would tell me I'm crazy. It's going to keep going to the moon. All right, maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. I'm not an expert in it. But here's something that woke me up a little bit. Now, I think the number one play on Bitcoin is the currency, right? It's the U.S. dollar being devalued intentionally with monetary policy, the modern monetary policy, and it's nonsense, but they just print and print and print and print and print, and they're going to literally destroy the U.S. and the dollar. But while the dollar goes down in value because of this printing, Bitcoin goes up in value, and it makes perfect sense, okay? Because it's really a hedge against the dollar. So could Bitcoin keep going up, like conceptually? Absolutely. And not only that, Mass Mutual, one of the largest mutually owned insurance companies in the world, okay, one of the top rated and largest that there is, they just went public stating that they took a $100 million position in Bitcoin. Now, some of you are like, oh my God, that's incredible. That means Bitcoin's going to go to the moon. Let me put this in perspective. $100 million to Mass Mutual is like you investing $1,000. It's a small, tiny little investment, but it does show you that a giant insurance company that is the most conservative investment strategy of any company out there is looking at Bitcoin as a hedge against the dollar. So is there some relevance to that? Absolutely. Does that give some strength in my mind to Bitcoin? Absolutely. The fear I have with Bitcoin is very volatile, and Bitcoin also is not adopted by the federal government. So people think Bitcoin is going to become the next currency, and maybe it is, but how? Explain to me how Bitcoin will be the next currency when the government doesn't control it. Because does the government make a currency out of something they don't control? Seriously? Look at your dollars in your pocket. Holy crap, folks. And I don't remember what year it was they changed it, 1950s, but it says Federal Reserve note. A note is a debt, okay? The Federal Reserve controls this. The Fed does not control Bitcoin. So how can Bitcoin be the next currency if the government can't control it? Hence why I'm scared of Bitcoin and why I don't invest in it.
Yeah, I don't think it'll, the U.S. has no incentive to legitimize Bitcoin. U.S. has every incentive to keep the, U.S. citizens and everyone else, if they can swing it, trapped in this money system, which is why they're pulling as hard as they can for digital dollars, digital currency as quickly as they can, so that it becomes less about less about physical cash in your hand, which should mean something, to now just kind of numbers on a balance sheet, which they can manipulate to no end. For political ends, let's put it that way. They can manipulate it for political ends. And the U.S. uses its military influence to then go out to every other country and pressure them into inflating at around the same rate that we do, so that people don't lose confidence in the dollar compared to everything else, because they can't go anywhere else that isn't also inflating, which is just a giant tax on all of us. So they've been very successful. That's part of why you say, when is it going to end? Like, Chris, you've been predicting that the stock market is going to have a major crash for a while, and the question is, when is it going to happen? And the X factor in all that is the confidence game that the U.S. government is playing, right? Which is, at what point does it hit a tipping point where we lose confidence in the dollar, which is why they're trying so hard to pressure other countries to keep inflating at around the same rate we do. And it's why they're never going to legitimize something like Bitcoin that gives us an escape from the dollar. So I don't think it's going to ever be an issue of the U.S. government legitimizing. It's going to be up to the rest of us who look at something like Bitcoin as an escape and as a hedge and insurance policy against inflation. We have to standardize it. We have to find a way to legitimize it between us as a currency of exchange, like outside of the government system. And I don't know how that's going to happen, but to me, that's the next step that needs to happen, is we need to have a way, for example, for my agency. We charge $5,000 to launch a podcast, $2,000 a month. What does that like, I have clients who could pay me in Bitcoin right now, Chris. Like, if you own Bitcoin, you could pay my agency in Bitcoin. The question is, with Bitcoin fluctuating all over the place, how do I charge you? How do I make sure that I'm charging you something that isn't constantly fluctuating, and then we have to reevaluate every single month what fraction of a Bitcoin you owe for my service? Then how do I get that Bitcoin into the hands of my freelancers that are all over the world? So there are some key problems there that if we figure out a way to solve it, I think there's plenty of people like you and me and Gene that are open-minded that would go, I bet I could move half my entire business into taking and receiving and giving out payments in Bitcoin. And when
I
that
agree.
starts to happen, that's going to scare the shit out of people in government, rightfully so.
I want to argue with you for a second. I want to counterpoint. Not in a bad way. But
I love you, Gene.
But you said something that made me think, and actually said two things there that really made me think. Number one is, you said the government has no incentive to legitimize Bitcoin. And in that, so all right, so let me tell you, this is really interesting, I think. The incentive for me, like let's just say over the last, for argument's sake, over the last 3 weeks, Bitcoin's gone from 30,000 a coin to 40,000 a coin. And in my mind, I equate that to like a stock. So I have stock in Merrill Lynch. I bought it at 30. It's now 40. Well, at the end of the year, that would be a capital gains, right? So I would get taxed by the government, and they control that because they can actually see those transactions occurring. In the Bitcoin world, they don't see that right now because everybody's got wallets offshore and all that stuff. So I would argue that the incentive is that when they can get their hands around the tax dollars, that's when it makes sense for them to actually legitimize it and say, okay, Gene, now we know you have it and we can trace it. So if you lie, we'll hammer you, right? But you can have it all you want and use it to buy your toilet paper. That's fine. You're just going to pay us taxes. But what you made me, because I've always looked at the crypto like the stock market. Like I'm buying into Bitcoin, to me is like a mutual fund, and I watch it and it's a long play. But you just offered me something else, which I thought was really interesting. What if it was treated like cash? Like you said, if I paid you $5,000 today for you to build me a website and a podcast, and next week it was worth $2,200 a coin, right? What did that do to you? You just took a $2,800 haircut. So that's a really interesting parlay, really, because I've never really.
Well, I mean, that's the difference. Yeah, I mean, that's the difference, Chris, and chime in. Like that's the difference between looking at Bitcoin the way a lot of people have been looking at it as an investment, hoping it continues to go up, versus looking at it as what it should be, which is a medium of exchange.
Right.
And if it's going to be the
100%.
standard medium of exchange, there has to be some stability. It can't be looked as a growth stock. If it's a growth stock, it'll never be what it should be. And the whole reason why it's going up is the theory that it's going to be at some point a medium of exchange. If it never materializes into that, it's never going to deliver on the promise, and the whole thing's a waste of everyone's time.
Listen, like, I love that you said, you guys are like, this is good stuff. And folks, I hope you're all enjoying this. But like, you take a $20 bill like the one in my hand. This is nothing more than a means of exchange. We can exchange this. I hand this to you and it's $20. It's going to be $20 the rest of the year. I mean, yeah, some are like, it's worth a little less at the end of the year. It's worth a little less tomorrow, but it's still $20. Bitcoin is like trading a stock. Or if you go way back into the beginning of the stock market and exchanges, you look at tulips. They used to trade tulips. And like literally tulips got to such a bubble because people valued them so much that they were exchanging massive amounts of things like, heads of wine, or however they call it, a boar's head of wine, and all these other things for just this tulip. Then all of a sudden people were like, it's a tulip. It's like, and it just exploded. Well, is that what Bitcoin is? I mean, is it speculation or is it real? I don't want to say it's too early to tell, but it's something to be aware of. And it can't be used as a means of exchange because of exactly what you said. It doesn't have a relative stability. The government would want a relative stability. But I love what Gene said about the government does want to get control because they want the tax revenue. 100%, but they can't figure it out yet. So at this point, it's nothing different than going and buying gold, in my opinion, right? Gold is a great defensive position. Everybody should really consider in precious metals having at least 10% of their portfolio in it, maybe a little bit more given the times we're in. But gold is something that also fluctuates in value, and it can be exchanged. You can use it as a means of exchange, chop a little corner off and exchange it, but it's got the same problem that Bitcoin does. So I really look at Bitcoin kind of like the precious metals, like gold. It's a very similar type of thing to me. But does Bitcoin have maybe a better ability to kind of really persevere? Yeah, because it's digital and we are moving in a digital world. So it's a very complicated topic, but it's one that a lot of people are making a stupid amount of money. And all I would say to it, again, I'm not an expert, but I would just say, just understand that nothing goes on forever. We don't live forever, and your Bitcoin's not going to go up forever. So just understand you should really have an exit point, because otherwise, what is it to you? You're just hoping it's going to go nowhere. I mean, when I invest, I have strategies. I have rules of engagement on everything I invest in. I buy it at X, and my plan is to make a certain rate of return. 10%, let's just say. When it hits 10%, folks, I'm out. And people bash me. In March, I took a bunch of money from my privatized banking. I moved it into my TD account, and I bought Tesla. at $415. And I rode Tesla to $890. And I sold it. And everybody was like, oh my God, that was the stupidest thing you could have done. It went to over 1,000. It split right for one. And you'd be a millionaire. And I would probably be a millionaire. But here's the thing. I followed my rules. And because of that, I sleep really good at night. Everything I invest in, I follow rules. I'm selling real estate right now because I have rules. And rules should be in everybody's investing strategy. However, it's not, because everybody is a gambler thinking that, it's just never going to end. And unfortunately, the parade will end.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, so it's hard to talk people out of waiting to get that last little squeeze, that last little 5%, and that's when you end up losing half. Is the collapse comes. So let's talk a little bit about what's most likely to happen this year, given the political change. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. There's going to be a lot of executive orders, but odds are in the next 2 years, taxes on the quote-unquote rich, or really what is now just the upper middle class and even just the middle of the middle class, we know those taxes are going to go up. California is going to get bailed out in some way, so I don't know how aggressive they're going to be, but when the bailout was kind of in question, California was looking at coming after people that had lived within California within the last 10 years. I mean, this is going to get stupid crazy potentially. So what are the rich doing to stay rich and get richer when it comes to things like taxes? And is there anything we can learn from what they're going to do this year that we need to start planning for?
Oh my goodness, Josh. And you know what? This has become more prevalent than ever before in what I do. And what the wealthy are doing is they're looking at several things. Number one, they are rapidly getting control of their money. They're getting all the money that they have, all the assets they have, and they're getting back control. Now, if it's a real estate asset, what are they doing? Well, they're taking advantage of the high market, and they're taking home equity lines of credit. Some of them are going to private equity groups and getting them to give them the equity in the house because they don't want a monthly payment. And there are equity groups that will give you the equity, and you don't have a monthly payment. You share in the future appreciation. They're getting control of their money in a lot of ways. Secondarily, they're looking for places to park their money where it will make an interest that at least paces inflation. So what's pacing inflation? Are U.S. Treasuries? No. Okay. There's very few places right now you can put your money that's guaranteed to pace inflation. Number one, insurance companies are. Okay. And I don't mean to keep going back to these stupid, specially designed and engineered whole life policies, these privatized banks. But folks, that's what the wealthy are doing. I'm sorry. Like, I don't make this stuff up. Just go out and look. They're piling millions, billions, trillions of dollars into these. Insurance companies reduce the amount that somebody can put into these vehicles because they don't want everybody's money. They just don't. But that's where the money's going because they're getting a guaranteed 4% plus dividends. What else are the wealthy doing? A lot of wealthy are literally getting ready for what's to come. They're planning and getting a strategy on what's going to come. So real estate. Wealthy always go to real estate. What are they doing? They're looking at what sectors of real estate are going to get hit first. Well, you got all these deferments of mortgage payments. Eventually, that's going to end. They just kicked the can again on the eviction moratoriums. I can't go there because I'll start swearing badly. But they did that. So like all these absentee landlords that own these rentals that aren't collecting rent and haven't been for a year now, like, do you think any of them want to sell their property? So the wealthy that have this cash and have control of their money, don't you think they're thinking, all right, well, let's do a marketing campaign to all the absentee owners of all these rental properties and offer them a cash deal. We don't even need to see the property. Just send us some photos and then we'll buy it cash if you sell it to us at our price. You're darn right they are, because they'll wait it out. They'll wait till May or who knows when this eviction moratorium ends. They'll wait it out, and then they've got a property pennies on the dollar. So they're looking at that. They're looking at what else got hit. How about shopping centers like the one I'm in, strip malls? How many of those are vacant? Because if you live in New York, drive around, folks. Drive through one of those plazas where you used to see full occupancy. Holy smokes, they're all empty. Or they're not empty, but if you look inside, the tables are gone. The things aren't there. What's going to happen with these strip malls? Well, eventually those landlords are going to have to sell. It happened in 08 and 09, and it's going to happen again. So who's going to buy those? The wealthy. Why? Because they're in control of their money. How about what else are the wealthy looking for? Old big shopping centers. Like, I don't want to use Walmarts because they're still doing well, but other big ones, what were some big Bontons and things like that? They have these giant Bed Bath & Beyonds, these giant buildings. They're buying them and converting them into storage facilities. Why? Why would they want more storage facilities? Because when this whole thing happens, there's going to be an awful lot of people being displaced, tenants that now can get evicted. I got a whole laundry list, believe me. I got a laundry list and a shotgun next to it, okay? Let's leave the shotgun out of this one. But anyway, I got this laundry list. So when those people leave, they got to put their stuff somewhere. And you get the point. Like when people start losing their houses because they can't pay the mortgage payments that they've been deferring, and they think the parade's never going to end again. But now all of a sudden the bank says, hey, you owe us all this money. Oh, I can't pay it. Well, what'd you do with all that stimulus money, all those unemployment checks? I spent it on TVs and PlayStations. Great. Pay us our money. I can't. Okay, well, we'll modify your mortgage if you qualify. You see, there are so much opportunity. Even though the market's at an all-time high, I know wholesalers and real estate investors that are absolutely crushing it because they knew where to go, where the pockets are, and the pockets are just starting to form. I still think they're 2 years out, but that's just my opinion. Yep. So the wealthy, number one, know what's coming, because they read and they have good retained advisors, not that aren't just trying to sell them something. Number two, they're in full control of their money. I wouldn't be surprised that pretty soon if you see wealthy going into all their line of credits with conventional banks and emptying them out, and then playing the shell game, taking the money from those lines of credit that are at very low interest rates, 4 or 5%, taking that money and shuffling it around between their different banking policies and different banks because they don't want to keep the money in the same bank they just took it from. That wouldn't be control. Take the money from KeyBank, put it over in your credit union. Take the money from KeyBank, put it into Mass Mutual. You see, they're shuffling this game so that when this all happens and the banks freeze up all the lending, i.e. they will, when that happens, it happened in March, they have all the cash already ready to deploy. And they just go make stupid amounts of money, folks. Like, there is nothing complex about what I just told you. It's happened so many times in the past, but yet we're blind to what is about to happen because we're chasing a fictitious thing because we're conforming with what everybody's telling you to do, and that's buy, buy, buy. It's never going to end. Buy, buy, buy. I don't think anyone's left their house because when I drive to work, I look around and I'm like, dude, this is going to happen faster than I think. But everybody else is like, dude, it's never going to go down. Buy. It's just going to be great. Look at Bitcoin. Look at Nvidia. Look at all these stocks. They're going up and up and up. And I'm like, keep buying, buddy, because I'm going to buy them when they go down.
So, Chris, you know why I brought up Bed Bath & Beyond, right?
I do.
I
do. Tell me. They just filed,
announced
didn't
they were. What's that?
They just announced their
they're closing 40 stores in 2020. Yeah, I don't know how many.
They're filing too.
Oh, are they? Is that right?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, for like a bankruptcy restructuring?
Restructuring, I heard that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's going to be, so real quick, I want to close out with a couple of things. Before we get to that, Chris, what's the best way for people to reach out and connect, and what's the first step they should take with you?
All right, so the best way is go to my website, chrisnaugle.com. My website has everything. I give it all away for free. First thing they should do is go to free resources and watch the very first video that shows up. It's 90 minutes. So if you can't spend 90 minutes to, enjoy financial freedom the rest of your life, then don't even bother doing this. But go to my website, watch that video. When you're done watching it, one more swipe on your finger, schedule a call. Let's talk. Let me answer your questions. Let me find out what you're doing. I'm not selling you anything. I really don't have anything to sell you, but I want to answer your questions, and I'll show you what we do. And if we can help you, great. It's a match made in heaven.
Cool. Love it. Okay, so before we get to Buffalo Bills predictions for the wild card weekend, which we could spend half hour on. Yes, I know. Gene,
I'm from Buffalo.
I know.
Good topic.
Okay, before we get to that, I just want to give me a couple of interesting opportunities that if you were young, hungry, aggressive, and really all you didn't really have access to your own capital, but all you had was your ability and willingness to be aggressive, be nimble, and just build good relationships with people that maybe do have access to capital. What are a couple of opportunities you'd be keeping your eye on in 21?
I'd read every sales book and every marketing book I could, and I would start going to any place I could with professional real estate investors and offering my time for free to learn how to wholesale and how they do their marketing to find deals. You don't need any money to invest your time.
Love it. Yeah, that's awesome.
And then you'd make a ton of money because you'd be such an asset, and they'd pay you a stupid amount of money to do what you learned.
Right. So in other words, they have the capital. They need people to find them deals. Go to them and find somebody that can teach you how to find the deals. Go be a bird dog and make a percentage.
That's it.
And start building up your own nest egg.
Use your time to find the buyers and the sellers, and then bring them to the company, and then say, hey, I got the buyers and I got the sellers. How can I make money?
Yeah.
And Chris, would you even agree that's seller, that's market, that's monetary, that's politically agnostic? You can do that any day of the week, any time, right? Any year of the century.
If I was a young kid again, I would have done, I wouldn't change anything in my life, but if I had the ability to take a time warp back, the first thing I would have done is stop doing the things I was doing. Snowboarding I would have done, but I would have read a lot of books on sales and marketing. And then the second thing I would have done is I would have donated and given my time to more things, because I truly believe those that give get. So I would have just given my time to the people that were very successful, and then I would have said, I'm here to help. I'm going to show up. I'll show up when you guys aren't here. I'll do whatever you want me to do. Show me what you do and what you know. And then that knowledge would make you wealthy beyond your wildest dreams.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I would change if I were to go back. If I could go back in my early 20s again, too. So I got into real estate when I was like 25. But I kind of took that, I know what to do. I got my license, I read the books and stuff like that, and I kind of jumped into the space. I didn't seek out the most successful people and just be a fly on the wall in their office and bring them coffee. That would have changed my life, and I would have gotten further a lot faster. I didn't realize, because I didn't know anybody that was successful growing up. I didn't realize that the more successful the person is, the more likely they are to get a kick out of somebody coming to them with that offer. Like, hey, I'll show up, I'll bring you coffee twice a day, I'll go out to lunch with you, I'll carry your jacket, I'll drive your car, whatever it takes. Just let me get around you and learn what you're doing and learn how to help you do it. There's a lot of people that would take a young person up on that offer today. I wish I would have known that when I was in my early 20s.
I just did it. A guy, his name's Dimitri. He's 18 or 19 years old. Showed up to a RIA, stood right in front of me so I couldn't get off stage. Said, "Are you hiring?" I said, "I'm always hiring, but I don't pay." He said, "Okay, when can I start?" And I thought he was joking. He hasn't left. And it's funny you mentioned that about coffee. He comes in with coffee for me every time. I don't let him pay for it anymore, but he used to, and he doesn't ask. He knows what I drink. And I just turned over. We're doing land flipping, the Jack Bosch thing. We started a whole division for that, and I gave it to him to run. He's 19 years old, and he's running a whole real estate division. I'm funding all the marketing for it. How much money do you think he's going to make in the next couple of years? I don't know. We'll see.
That's awesome. Good for him.
He just showed up. He just showed up.
Cool. All right. I love it. All right, Chris, give me your prediction. How are your Bills going to do?
I think the Bills are going to go all the way. I think they've got everything they need. And I'm not even a Bills fan, but you know what? I got so much heart for that team and the things they've done. And Josh Allen is just a machine. And that team, I watch bits and pieces. They are so fluid in what they're doing. So I don't know. I'm rooting for them, man.
Yeah. Gene, what about you?
Before I get into my prediction, you didn't ask me what I would change if I could go back.
Oh, yeah.
What would you change?
That last acid trip, I dressed up as a penguin and beat up my grandma. And I would have said to myself, don't do that one. That was enough.
I almost spit my tea out.
I'm glad I got you. That was good.
Oh, my guy. Good Lord. Oh, my gosh, Green.
No.
Good
So
Lord.
here's what I was just talking to, I was at the gym yesterday or the day before, I forget. And I was talking to my coach, who's a big football guy. And he said, we were talking Brady. And, the first time in 21 years he's going into the playoffs as a wild card, and how they're gonna stomp the Skins. And I said, man, I would not want to have to play the Bills right now. Like, seriously, dropping that 56 points at the very end, tail end of that was kind of like, we coming. I will say this. I do maybe think from the NFC, the pack comes out. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is just playing out of his mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it could be Bills and Chiefs in the AFC Championship, and I'll tell you, this is what I think. And Chris, this might break your heart. I think that the Bills will be back. I think they just might be a little bit too young, and the Chiefs have a little too much firepower, and I think it could be the Packers and the Chiefs.
Well, you saw it happen last time, right? Like as much as you give to the Bills, like he didn't choke, but he just didn't have that experience, that wisdom to bring it home.
Yeah.
It could happen again. So I guess I could see that. And again, I live in Buffalo. Bills are my team, but I agree. They're young. They're young.
Oh, they're fun to watch for many years.
Oh my gosh, it's just awesome to see it. It's like the last thing I remember is watching Bills with my dad and Craig Kelly era, and that was fun to watch. And we're back to that. That's just so awesome for the city.
Yeah. Got a lot of
stuff.
All right, gents. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Chris, thanks for coming back. We love having you here. Like, these are super fun conversations. I love big picture stuff like this. Gene, as always, you're a gentleman and a scholar. What's the place where people connect with you?
Thank you, sir. You know me. Just reach out. GeneVolpe.com is the spot. Matt, I will ask you this. You had mentioned as the show started, maybe in pre-show, the part one of this. I invite people to go back and watch part one of this one, and it was called. This title was the same, and I think you said it was in October. Do you happen to have that in front of you?
Yeah, it was so October 8th. The rich are getting richer, and you can too.
It was a great episode. We got a lot of feedback. Go back and see what Chris said in the first one. I was just charming as handsome as ever, so go check that out as well. But listen, it's been great. It's great seeing both your faces. I'm excited for 2021 with you.
Me too.
Absolutely.
Me too.
It's going to be an interesting roller coaster of a year. All right. Everybody, thank you so much, and thanks for reviewing the show. We appreciate all the ratings and the reviews, the 5-star ratings, of course, on iTunes and Apple Podcasts and all that fun stuff. And we'll see you on the next episode